Yes, some say that the Arminians are festering over this. Now then, that they have an ill sense of the devil everywhere, which is heresy and blasphemy. The devil isn't equal to God. He's not everywhere. What the Arminian doesn't want to admit to is the fall. He will not admit to the fall. You see, by not admitting to the fall, they can overlook the fact and put aside the fact that we carry about with us a body of sin. Not the devil, but a fallen body of sin. And the things that we do sinful, it's not because of the devil, but because of ourselves. It is called personal responsibility at the end of the day, which Arminianism does away with. We are personally responsible for the sins that we do. We can't blame the devil. And everywhere you go, you hear these Arminians saying, oh, well, that's of the devil. Well, no, you've got to make a distinction. Is that of the devil, deliberately, or is that of man, evil man? You're going to make a distinction. But you see, Arminianism won't, because it is of the devil. So the devil will excuse himself. See, by thy words thou shalt be condemned, and by thy words thou shalt be justified. Yes, the devil goes to and fro throughout the world. And when asked by his maker, what are you doing? And the millennialist is contending against God, by the way, in the background. Oh, he's saying the devil's in heaven. What is Jehovah saying that he's on earth for? Oh no, they're saying this to their maker. As they're saying it to us, they're actually saying it to their maker, because God is nigh each and every one of us. And more so with us, because Christ is in us. So when we get attacked, Christ is actually being attacked, personally attacked, through his children. But the devil goes to and fro throughout the earth. Innocent. Done nothing. Or done nothing. I've just been going to and fro throughout the earth. He can't help himself. He's the father of lies. Of course he's been up to mischief. Of course he's wicked. That's wickedness for you. That's what he is. And of course by his spirit he's encouraging others to do wickedness. But as he's encouraging, what is there in the first place? The wickedness of man. To be encouraged. We cannot get away from what we are. Wretched creatures at the end of the day. This body of sin must put on a different body. This corruption must put on incorruption. Must do. Oh yes, we've got to make a difference. There are some obvious things whereby the devil is completely speaking. And when we get up to persons that are totally evil, murderers, rapists, child buggerers, and their like, they've been taken over by the devil. They're demon possessed. In the term that they've more of the spirit of the devil than any normal person has. Pardon me. And then of course we go higher up and we see the same in a multitude of people, persons, souls in high places whom we must contend against. They're there. Otherwise we're not going to contend, are we? It is superfluous to say that we should put on the whole armour of God. towards wickedness in high places. Ephesians. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Verse 12. Okay. Of Ephesians 6. Now, did we not have the princes of this world in the ministers? The Pharisees, the ministers, putting Christ to death. Didn't we? Of course we did. Paul cites this in 1 Corinthians 2 verse 8, which none of the princes of this world knew, for had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. And that is why the princes were not with the kings in the book of the Revelation when they came to the battle of Armageddon. Because the princes had done their job, served their time, served their purpose. And now it was left up to the kings of the lower world to complete what the princes of the lower world had begun. But they couldn't. No, they couldn't. They were defeated. They were defeated, roundly defeated by Jesus Christ, the captain, going forth in salvation, defeating the foe. And leading captivity captive, he gave gifts unto men. Verse 5, and a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. Justification doesn't know the voice of strangers. The fleshly side of this may fall into a bog of false teaching. Will we get out of it? Again, we always get out of it. God doesn't leave us there. Our shepherd will not leave us. He will draw us out. You know, the world wonders after the beast. We don't. Have you ever asked yourself that? That the world wonders after the beast, which is Romanism. We don't, do we? Why? Because it is a wrong voice. A completely wrong voice. Completely. It's where the devil's seat is. Do we have to be told that? By some pamphlet? Some magazine? Somebody to instruct us? We intrinsically know it. We intrinsically know it. Before we ever get to pamphlets and leaflets and all the rest of it. And an awful lot of them are serving the Roman Church, the Antichrist. Hoodwinking us, doing a paisley. And you can always tell that because of the Arminian spirit behind it. Have you trusted in Jesus? You trusted in Jesus? The faith. Oh yes, you go through these magazines. Oh, so how do you get to be saved? Have you trusted in Jesus? Have you faith in Jesus? And you get onto this rag and you burn it. Aye, we are the children of God. We are. Do you know the Pharisees of old were worshipped and praised? And of course you've got the dissenters who wouldn't. And then of course you've got the children of God who wouldn't at all. And the Pharisees made disciples of themselves to follow Moses, the law for justification, but at the same time the Pharisees, and how poignant that is, how set by God that is, that term Pharisees, to relate to hypocrisy, a show of being fine individuals, and they're full of hypocrisy. The Pharisees followed the law as far as they liked to follow the law. I don't like this, says one Pharisee. Oh, it says adultery. Oh, right, I must get rid of the mistresses and all this business. Oh, thieving. Oh, well, I just robbed that old age pensioner. And children, be obedient to your parents. Oh, I've just had a gift from those parents that we wouldn't take the child and stone him. They were partial in the law. They were hypocrites, whited sepulchres, den of vipers. And when they came in to see the adulterer, well, they brought the adulterer into Christ and they tried to trip him up for a word. Oh yes, they stood there and Christ said, "They that without sin cast the first stone." Do you know the Arminian leaps up and down and says, "Hey, you know, you can't go round condemning people. Here's an adulteress." Oh, is that right? So you're not taught of God, are you? Hey? You're taught of the devil. Because the adulteress was an adulteress. She was brought in by hypocrites. And being brought in by hypocrites, what does that signify? Have you no noggin, no brain, no reason? Why should a group of Pharisees bring in an adulteress? Okay, because the Pharisees were criminals themselves. Have you ever thought of that? If good men of good standing, or good women of good standing, had brought the adulteress in before Christ, that would be a different thing. Because there was no guile, there's no craft with these people. But with the Pharisees there was. And as the Pharisees stood there, and Christ said, because he knew their hearts, he knew everything about them. He only said one word. He is without sentence. He is without sin, cast the first stone. Go on then. He went straight to their hearts because they were thieves, they were adulterers, they were the most sinful, wicked hypocrites standing there. There is normal sins that people commit. The Arminians make a great deal of that. But this is a different situation. These blackguards were committing adultery themselves, thieving, undermining the law. They abandoned God in the first place. They're serving another God and a vision of their own hearts. They were thoroughly wicked. They were stinking. They stood there in their own self-righteous rags and they were stinking. And Christ hit their conscience. And they went out one by one, carefully. Oh, they would have rushed. Oh, it implies that they rushed to bring this woman in and throw her onto the ground. But they carefully went out, heads down, condemned. Do you know the hatred was building up against Jesus Christ? Murder. Murder was in every heart. They were vile, vile. They did the work of their father, the devil, and he was a murderer from the beginning. Yes, Mr. Arminian, get your interpretation right. Before you start casting stones at us, because that is exactly what you are doing, you are condemning us for standing by Jesus Christ. That's what you're doing. You're throwing metaphorical stones at us. You're sitting in judgment over us, and you're telling us that we should not sit in judgment. You're the hypocrites. And of course the last act of the Pharisees. Ministers! Ministers! Was to murder the Lord of glory, an innocent, totally, absolutely innocent person. Impeccable person. And of course because of that, wrath came upon Israel to the uttermost. Uttermost, says Paul. Paul the Jew. Oh, you got your Arminian lover of earthly Zionism and oh no, it's not, oh no. Yeah, well, you carry on, boy. You carry on. I tell you what you do. You see the evolutionist, you go stand by him because his mouth can't stop. Okay? Neither can yours. About the Jews. Yours about the Jews, is it? Restoring the Jews' physical, political jury back to its standing and all this business. Well, you know, you go on and on and on and on and on about this. Go stand with the evolutionist. Go stand with the JWs. Go stand with the Mormons. Because I'm not listening, mate. I'm not listening. I don't hear your voice to persuade me otherwise. I'm hearing the voice of Christ in truth. And I can run rings around you. And what do you do when I do that? And if I start to do that to you, what do you do? Well, you just keep changing the goalposts, that they say in this world. You just keep on changing. We say one thing and show you where you're at fault. And you can see by your own conscience, if you have one, that you're at fault. It's but a gain to you. You'll move on to something else. And then when we've finished with you, you'll walk down the road and you'll say to somebody else exactly the very things you've said to us and we've answered you upon, because you're blinded by the devil. That's why. Christ has said to his ministers, within that world that we live in, spiritually, that the unprofitable servant take what was given to him and cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. Matthew 25 verse 30. And so the ministers of God, the angelic ministers, and take that soul of that person and give them over to ministering angels of the kingdom of the devil, that kingdom of darkness, and they leave them there with those servants of darkness. And that soul is thrust deeper into the kingdom of darkness, utter darkness. There are levels within the kingdom of darkness, and some work towards getting deeper and deeper and deeper by the occult and other means to get to the centre of all evil. Of all evil. Jesus Christ will lead us on. even as he has this day. We can turn round this day and we can say Christ has brought us thus far and no further thus far. This passage, as we read and have seen and testify to, is concerning shepherds, pastors, ministers, okay? All who are on the oversight. They must be dealt with first. Sad to say that throughout the Old Testament, we're seeing today the very same, reflected. False shepherds scattering the flock and then condemning the flock for not coming to them, for not assembling together before their ministry. But there's no voice drawing us to your ministry. You're the false shepherds. You're giving us nothing but stones for fish. Nothing. The sheep are scattered on every hill, but Christ is still there, guiding us, watching over us, drawing us, being gracious unto us, drawing us to himself. We have comfort in Christ, and so it shall ever be, and evermore shall be.